Hearthstone, my all-time favorite card game by far, and my most played video game ever. Now, it's difficult to tell you exactly how many hours I have in this game, and believe it or not, it's not because it would hurt my pride to tell you, but because Hearthstone has no built-in feature keeping track of your hours played. Firestone, a helpful Hearthstone add-on, does, however, keep track of your total games. And doing some quick math using the average length of games I like to play and the amount of time I've spent in solo adventures, I have somewhere around 10,000 hours in Hearthstone. I've been playing since launch, when my friend pulled us away from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Networks, rest in peace, to play Hearthstone. In my school, my college gave me an NCAA varsity contract to play Hearthstone for them. My team was sponsored by Coke Energy and Discord, and at my peak, I was the 32nd best player in the world. Collegiate! All this has been built up for the two most important facts about my Hearthstone experience. One, I've never spent $1 on this game, and two, Duels is my favorite game mode by far, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why it's my favorite game mode and how awesome it is before it gets removed on April 16th. Hearthstone has a lot of game modes, the most popular of which being Battlegrounds, which isn't really a Hearthstone game mode so much as it is Hearthstone's take on auto-battlers. The main card game modes in Hearthstone are Standard, Wild, Twist, Arena, and Duels. Standard contains the most recent 4 to 6 card sets. For those who don't know, a new set of cards is released in Hearthstone every 4 months, until there are 6 sets in Standard, at which point the oldest 3 sets are sent to Wild to make room for the newest set. Hence why every year starts with 4 sets and ends with 6. The rotating set mechanic makes Standard the most affordable game mode, since at the end of the year, you have 3 sets worth of card to get rid of for resources to make next year's cards. This also makes it the most popular game mode since it costs the least money to play. The other 2 game modes, like Standard, are Wild and Twist. Wild contains all of the card sets Hearthstone has ever released, and as you can imagine, it is incredibly expensive and difficult to play. And Twist would be best described as nonsense wild. Each season it has a unique combination of card sets and a unique group of rules attached to it, but since it can be any group of cards from Hearthstone's history, the only way to reliably play every season is to have all the cards anyway. And if I have all the cards, why wouldn't I just play Wild? So nobody plays Twist. In fact, Twist doesn't really matter for today. Now, the 2 remaining card game modes are Arena and Duels, and the reason I separated them from the other 3 is because they have different rules. You can't just build a deck from the cards you have and go play against people. First of all, both game modes cost 150 gold or $2 of real-world money to play. You can play casual duels for free, but nobody really plays that. Plus, the MMR system is really terrible, so there's like no motivation to play casual duels ever, and I think it might be one of the least played game modes ever. At any rate, in Arena, you're shown 3 cards and have to pick one. You do this 30 times, and then boom, you've got a deck. You use this deck to compete against people who have done the same thing for rewards. You've got 3 lives. When you lose all 3, you're kicked out and you gotta pay again if you want to play. But if you're good enough to consistently win, you can theoretically play Arena forever because, like I said, you play Arena for rewards, like gold. For Arena, you don't need any cards in your collection to play. You just need the gold or money to enter. And this makes Arena the second most popular card game mode in Hearthstone. Typically, people get their gold playing Standard and then use it to play Arena in the hopes of turning their gold into more gold. But you can do the same thing with Duels. Duels just has a little bit of a different set of rules. For starters, Duels has a history. Duels didn't start out as a PvP game mode. It started as a PvE game mode 7 years ago called Dungeon Run, released with the Kobolds and Catacombs expansion. And when it came out, it was easily the most fun solo adventure Hearthstone had ever released by leaps and bounds. It was all about pushing the Hearthstone engine to do the most fun and crazy things that were possible in Hearthstone. What if minion play effects triggered twice? What if minion death effects triggered twice? What if all your minions had 1 more attack and health? What if you could add special treasure cards to your deck that were too powerful to ever be played against people? What if every opponent you faced had their own insane powers and buffs, so you still had to try hard to win? That was Dungeon Run. And in the next couple of years, they'd make 4 more Dungeon Runs, each one improving on the Dungeon Run formula. Give me more heroes to choose from, more hero powers, more treasures to play with. The final form of Dungeon Run was the Saviors of Uldum expansion's Tombs of Terror, and it was awesome. 4 heroes to choose from, each one a combination of 2 of the original 8 classes. Each hero had 3 hero powers, 6 signature treasures, and you got to choose from 4 10-card starter decks to give your deck a direction to head in. Maybe it was a deck with secrets, maybe it was a deck with battle cries, etc. After each battle in any Dungeon Run format, you choose from 3 buckets of 3 cards to add to your deck. Occasionally, you'd be offered a choice of 3 treasure cards instead, either a passive treasure that exists for the rest of your games, or an active treasure, a card too powerful to exist in regular Hearthstone. Of course, you also got to choose from 4 Plague Bosses to fight at the end of your run. Plague Bosses had 300 health, 3 forms, and retained health across runs, so you could whittle them down over multiple dungeon runs before eventually killing them. Although, real ones know you beat them in one run, or you might as well fight a different boss. If you can still buy it in the Adventures tab for gold, I strongly recommend saving up the gold to buy it. I've gotten a ridiculous amount of Hearthstone fun out of playing this iteration of Dungeon Run, and it's well worth the gold. Do not buy it with money. Never buy anything except cosmetics from Hearthstone with the money. Vote with your dollar. Hearthstone should be free. Duels should be free. It's literally the problem with the game mode. Which, in fact, brings me back to Duels. Why am I telling you so much about Tombs of Terror if this is a video about Duels? Because Tombs of Terror laid the groundwork for Duels to exist. Tombs of Terror had 4 heroes. Current PvP Duels has 19. 20 if you count the limited time Diablo hero. 20 heroes with 3 hero powers each, 6 signature treasures each. That's 60 hero powers and 120 signature treasures made just for this game mode. So much cool, unique content was made just for this game mode. And they're throwing it all away. Why? Why are they throwing it away? Because of the one difference between Duels and Tombs of Terror. People listening closely may have noticed I didn't mention the amount of unique starter decks offered in PvP Duels. That's because to play Duels, you have to use cards from your own collection. After you pick a hero power and a signature treasure, you need to make a 16-card deck with no duplicates using cards from your own collection across every expansion, effectively gatekeeping Duels to a subsection of the already small, wild player base. Who knows why the knuckle draggers at Blizzard made this decision, because it already costs gold to play. But they never changed it, and I believe it's ultimately what doomed this incredible game mode. Look, if you want to play or check out Duels before it's gone, I encourage you to play it, even if you're just playing casual. It's an awesome game mode. If you want to compete in Duels, I recommend getting Firestone. It's on Overwolf, same place you get the Minecraft mod tool CurseForge. It really is everything you need to be good at Duels. They're pure stats, and they have all of them. What classes are good, what classes are bad, what treasures you should pick, what decks you should make, they've got it all.
And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to take some time to gush about the best decks in Duels and all the cool stuff they do.
Okay, so this one, best deck in the game right now, easily Drekthar Dragon Druid. It's basically your typical standard Dragon Druid. If you want to see one of the decks, it's got the same kind of cards and everything, you know, it's got your Dragon Golem, it's got your Emerald Explorer, it's got Kazakuzan. That's the real win condition of the deck. That's why the deck does so good, is because it still runs Kazakuzan. If you've played 4 other dragons this game, craft a deck of custom treasures. It's got Reno, it's got Alex Straza, of course, it's got Fi. It's really, really good. What's cool about it? Your treasure, 5 mana, gain 3 mana crystals. Your hero power, draw a spell. But what really makes it cool is the treasures that you get access to. The consistency with which you can pick good treasures, right? So you'll see the first treasure people pick that's really cool. You've got your first dragon you play, each turn costs 1 less. That means you can get your important dragons out quicker, right? Your whelp that gives you a mana crystal if you're holding a dragon, that costs 1 now instead of 2. You can get that out a turn earlier. You can get your dragon golem out turn 6. You can get your Alex Straza out turn 8, right? You can get these really big swings just by having your dragons cost 1 less. Another cool one, Dragon Blood. After the first time a friendly dragon dies each turn, yours or your opponent's, give all minions in your hand +1/+1. So by the end of the game, you're summoning a board full of 8-9 taunts using your Dragon Golems, because Dragon Golem summons copies of itself, not just other 3/4s. And then by the late game, if you make it all the way to get your second passive treasure, you can get your taunt minions, cost 2 less, but not less than 1. So now your Dragon Golems cost 5 instead of 7, your Emerald Explorers cost 4 instead of 6. And if you've got the other treasure to combo with it, now your Dragon Golems cost 4, your Emerald Explorers cost 3, and your Desert Nest Matrons restore mana, because they cost 1 and they still refresh for 4, so they're insane. Now this one, Dragon Affinity, gets you through the early game better because it's decreasing the cost of the first dragon you play each turn by 1, but Dragon Blood scales much better because it's slowly buffing up your hand until at the end of the game you're playing like 17 sevens and 20 20s and shit, right? So that's the best deck in the game, but by no means is that the only deck that's viable, right? Right behind it, you'll see my win rate is a little bit higher on this hero than it is with Drekthar. The yellow underneath is my average win rate compared to the total average. Firestone keeps track of that as well. Warlock in Duels, super crazy sludge Warlock. Why? Because your hero power is 1 mana, discover a card to discard from your hand. So you run all the discard cards, you run all the sludge cards, you're summoning tons of Walking Dead, you're summoning tons of Silverware Golems, you're discarding your sludges immediately, dealing 4 damage to somebody with them. You've got a really cool signature treasure. It's a 7 mana 3/3 Rush Lifesteal that has +1/+1 for every card you've discarded. So to end the game, you get to drop like a 7/13/13 Lifesteal Rush, heal for 13. The best part about it, if you discard it, it just gets added right back to your hand immediately. So if you've got nothing else to discard, you can just use him to draw cards with your hero power. Now this class is more carried by its hero power than it is by its treasures. You'll see it doesn't have a lot of variance in the treasures it gets, right? The first one you can get, this is a really popular one. For the first 2 turns, you've got an extra mana. This is another cool one, just spell damage +1 for the rest of your games. Now your sledges deal 5 instead of 4, right? This one's pretty good. Sticky Fingers, cards that didn't start in your deck cost 1 less, but not less than 1, so now your sledges cost 2 instead of 3, which means Pop Guard makes them cost 0. Pretty consistently, you get this as your second treasure, Mummy Magic. The first Death Rattle minion you play each turn gets reborn. That means your 2 mana 3/2s that shuffle sledges into your deck are getting reborn, right? You can get this treasure so consistently, actually, that people will run extra Death Rattles just so that they can hit this treasure later. People run like Leper Gnome. Now Leper Gnome is 2 1s that deal 2 damage. Infected Peasant. Now Infected Peasant summons another Infected Peasant on top of a 2/2. Morarg Drill Fist excavates twice now, right? The 3 cards that you run in Warlock are basically all the discard cards, all the sludge cards, and all the Death Rattle cards. The third deck, also Dragon Druid actually, but it's a little bit of a different Dragon Druid, right? So Drekthar and Vandar are 2 technically neutral classes, and their signature treasures decide what class they're going to be, so they're another option for Horde and Alliance classes. There's the original Druid class in Omu, and Omu's really cool too. He's also super powerful because he runs the same deck, he just has a different hero power and signature treasure. Instead of his hero power drawing cards and his signature treasure gaining mana, it's the reverse. His hero power, 2 mana reduce the cost of a card in your hand that costs 5 or more by 1, which as you can imagine would be really good for all your high cost dragons getting discounted every turn. And his treasure is a big 8 mana 8/12 taunt that draws a card, deals a damage, and gains armor, and the amount that it does each of those things increases as you gain more wins. You can imagine his hero power reducing the cost of things is a lot less powerful when the treasures revolve around reducing the cost of dragons anyway. It doesn't scale quite as well as the card draw one. There are a lot of really cool treasures that Dragon Druid gets access to too. Draconic Dream, which is every time you play a dragon, shuffle a dream portal into your deck that summons a random dragon. Really good with Drekthar because you can draw those portals with your hero power, so now you're drawing all sorts of portals that are summoning dragons and whatnot. You've got Dragonbone Ritual, which is every time you play a dragon, it goes dormant when it dies, and then revives 2 turns later with +1 attack. And then of course you've got the best one, which is reduce the cost of taunt minions by 2, and there are tons of dragons with taunt. Another really cool deck, Turalian the Tenured. If you like Dude Paladin, you like Silverhand Recruit Paladin, this is the deck for you. Their best hero power, 2 mana, summon a Silverhand Recruit and add 1 to your hand, and their signature treasure for 5 mana, for the rest of the game, your Silverhand Recruits have +2/+2. So now your hero power is summoning a 3/3 and adding a 1 mana 3/3 to your hand. If you combo that with the other Dude Paladin cards, like every dude you summon has Divine Shield, and now your hero power is summoning a 3/3 with Divine Shield and adding a 1 mana 3/3 Divine Shield to your hand. And all the cards that buff dudes buff them too. So now all your dude cards are super crazy powerful. You can kill your opponent super fast. If you like aggro, Paladin is totally the way to go in duels. Another really cool one, Rattlegore. Rattlegore is peak Bomb Warrior. If anybody remembers Bomb Warrior, their hero power is passively, if they end a turn with armor, you shuffle a bomb into your opponent's deck. So you play full control armor warrior and you just wait. You just wait for them to draw bombs until they die. If you like control warrior, if you like gaining tons of armor, this is the deck for you. The hero power just gives you a win condition and then you hang out, gain armor. Another really cool one, Sir Finley. Sir Finley is literally just Battlecry Shaman. It's so cool. You run Shutterwalk, you run all the good battle cries. Your hero power makes it so that you discover a Battlecry minion to add to your hand from Shaman or Paladin. And then at the end of the game, you play your Shutterwalk. It triggers all your battle cries. You return Shutterwalk to your hand. You trigger all your battle cries. You get to the end game where you play Shutterwalk, you basically win. It's hard to survive the early game because your hero power does overload you by 1, but it gives you a ton of value. And it's hard to close out the late game because if you're not drawing Shutterwalk, you're not going to close out the game. One of my personal favorite classes, you can see here, my average winner is about 6% higher than the total average. Mozaki is the coolest form of freeze mage that they've ever made. The signature treasure blows up your whole deck, and for the rest of the game, every turn, instead of drawing from your deck, you discover a card that used to be in your original deck to draw. So you can't fatigue. You have infinite cards in your deck for the rest of the game. You can go as long as you have to. What's cool about Mozaki is the second treasure can almost every time be Ring of Black Ice. Whenever a minion is frozen, add a copy of it to your hand. So in the late games of the run, you're just playing your opponent's deck better than them. You're freezing their whole board, and then you're taking all their cards. All their cards cost 2 less. You're playing them all the time. This deck is literally hand size management mage because you're just freezing your opponents and then playing all their cards. And for your passive treasure the first time, you want something defensive because what's the one weakness of mage? They don't really get to heal. So a really popular one is after a friendly minion dies, gain 1 armor. You're looking for, after each time you freeze a minion each turn, gain 2 armor. You're looking for Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers is pretty good because of the hero power too. Your hero power adds a little 2/1 to your hand that freezes. So, and it's a 2 mana 2/1, so Sticky Fingers makes it a 1 mana 2/1. And then my absolute favorite recently, you can see, I think it's super underrated. I'm 11% higher across 15 games. Scarlet Leaf Dancer Death Knight Duels. It's awesome. So for Scarlet Leaf Dancer, the hero power you have is you spend up to 3 corpses, and for each one, reduce the cost of a card in your hand by 1, right? So you're gaining tons of you're playing Rainbow Death Knight, gaining tons of corpses, but you actually have a use for them. You're using them to discount the things in your hand, right? Your weapon, the signature treasure, makes it so that every time you consume a corpse, you restore 2 health to your hero. So now your hero power reduces the cost of something in your hand by 1 3 times, and it heals you for 6. Now the treasures are really not as important as this combo. You can see a whole bunch of different kinds of treasures for Scarlet Leaf Dancer. What's really cool for this deck, you get to make a ton of corpses. You get to spend them real slow to heal yourself. You heal yourself for 6 every turn if you've played the weapon. And then you get to the late game, your Cinematic Necrotic Explosion does like 40 damage. So you just really drag out the game, gaining tons of corpses, healing for a ton, and then you throw out Cinematic Necrotic Explosion, you do like 1 billion damage, you kill them. It's awesome. It is so much more fun than Rainbow Death Knight constructed. It's crazy. It's a way better version of Rainbow Death Knight. If you can get, it's really rare, but if you can manage to get double battle cries, your hero power will start healing you for 12 instead of 6, because the battle cry on your weapon triggers twice. And if you want to check, you can check for anything. You can check what treasures are the best. You get your offered stuff from treasure pools 1 and 2 and passes pool 1 and 2. You can check what treasures pop up that are good. You can cross-reference them with what's popping up in your game. Make sure you're getting the best ones. Firestone is really all you need to be good at duels. It'll tell you how to draft, and then you got to play it yourself.
I like duels a lot. I've been playing it for a long time. It was a little rocky at its start because it was really hard to balance, but now I think it's in the best state it's ever been in. There's so much cool, original content that you can only find in this game mode, and it's a shame they're deciding to get rid of it when it isn't even the least played game mode in Hearthstone. If you've never given Duels a try, I encourage you to give it a shot before it's gone, even if it's just playing casuals with the cards you have. It's a shame Blizzard decided to remove Duels before seeing how it would work being made free, because I think it has the most potential of any game mode in Hearthstone. The perfect blend of arena's randomness and standard skill expression with enough variety to be extremely replayable. And I'm sad we've got to see it go.